The Panama Canal. Since the New World was discovered, Europeans have been searching for the Northwest Passage, a way to connect the western and eastern worlds by ship. Lewis and Clark, Henry Hudson, Alexander Mackenzie, and countless others spent their lives trying to discover the water route, a way to sail from Europe to Asia without having to go around Cape Horn or the Cape of Good Hope would revolutionize the world and truly make a global economy. The Suez Canal had been built mid-19th century, connecting the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean. The same man who led the team in Egypt, Count Ferdinand de Lesseps, was the first to try to dig across the narrow Isthmus of Panama. The French expedition ended in disaster, however. Incessant rain led to weak soil, landslides, and an abundance of diseases such as malaria and yellow fever. By the time Count Ferdinand had figured out solutions to these problems, funding for the project had been pulled and 20,000 lives had been lost. The bullish, imperialist Teddy Roosevelt decided that the Panama Canal was going to be his legacy. Roosevelt negotiated the Hay-Pauncefote Treaty of 1901, a treaty that revoked earlier agreements between America and Britain prohibiting either country from building the canal. After some debate, Congress agreed to appropriate funding for a canal. However, the Colombian Authority in Panama did not agree to lease the territory to America. Undaunted, Roosevelt did what many presidents since have also done, sold weapons to terrorists to overthrow a government. With American guns in their hands and American ships threatening war, Panamanian rebels overthrew the Colombian government and agreed to give America the right to build the canal. With rights to the territory secured, Roosevelt sent Chief Engineer John Wallace down to Panama to begin digging. Wallace was a civil engineer and railroad builder from Massachusetts, and his background seemed to make him well suited to the task. However, he was often too bogged down with details, and many felt he lacked the intensity of character for such an undertaking. At the time, his salary of $25,000 a year was higher than any other government official save the president. Wallace and his crew arrived at the height of the rainy season in Panama. The streets were thick with mud and foul water. An air of pessimism was felt by everyone. Pressure from Roosevelt to make dirt fly forced Wallace into beginning the operations earlier than he wanted. Due to the nature of digging at sea level, the project was almost immediately halted due to excessive flooding and landslides. The early delays further damaged the workers' weak morale, and the poor living conditions and terrible food didn't help matters. The bureaucracy in Washington only hampered the construction, and an overwhelmed Wallace ended up resigning from the project after only a year, without having accomplished anything. John Stevens took over the canal from Wallace. He was a fiery Maine railroad builder, someone Roosevelt felt was the right man to tackle the devil of a mess that was the canal. Stevens proved to be a much more effective coordinator than Wallace. He embraced the humanitarian aspects of the undertaking, and his first action was to provide better food and health care to the discouraged workers. Stevens was also the first person to abandon the idea of a sea-level canal and convinced Washington that a lock canal over the hills was the only way to go, an action that was crucial to the success of the project. He also created an excellent system of railroads that worked flawlessly until the canal's completion. However, after only 20 months on the project, he too felt the pressure and stress was too much and retired. His contributions were of critical importance to the completion of the canal. Stevens was succeeded by Colonel George Washington Goethals, a military engineer. Goethals brought to the project strict military administration and an unstoppably determined attitude. Despite his somewhat militaristic style and standoffish manner, many canal workers admired Goethals and considered him a fair and honest man. His efficacious management helped transition the project through a period of sluggish construction filled with undefeatable obstacles to one of rapid excavation and efficacy. Under Goethal's management, the project advanced swiftly. On October 10, 1913, Gamboa Dike was demolished, allowing ocean water from the Atlantic to meet water from the Pacific for the first time. On January 17, 1914, a French crane boat called La Valle passed through the canal, the first ship to do so. And then, in August that year, the SS Cristobal became the first passenger ship to cross the entirety of the canal. On the 15th of August, the Panama Canal opened for public traffic. The project in total cost America $370 million, $8.6 billion in today's money. Of the 56,000 workers who worked on the project, over 5,000 were killed, a casualty rate higher than most armed conflicts. If you include the 20,000 Frenchmen who gave their lives to the canal had a higher casualty rate than the average Civil War battle. Today, the canal is worth about $1 billion annually to Panama's economy. In 2010, the 1 millionth ship passed through it. The canal handles approximately 5% of all world trade. It remains one of the 7 wonders of the modern world, and one of the most impressive feats of human engineering. It revolutionized world trade and politics, and will continue affecting the world for centuries into the future. The Panama Canal and the men who worked on it will go down in history eternally.